Samba ngeke kondo
여보 거기를 럼세.
트럼페 지보스 된도 아니다. 그래 나는 니마 샹도
니마 테스트 샤기도.
트럼 되는 건데 삼바 다시 이제다. 뭐말에 즉시 차이다.
라레 니마 테스트 샤기도.
올라서. 야, 다 들은 거 주. 냠이 더 볼라지 근 제자죠. 그 남초를 진통하던 뭐트도 마트도 신에. 적종의 마셔야 인시 이 참아라. 쇼바 델레이 다시 델레이 시켜야.
Good morning, greetings to everyone. We'll be continuing with our instructions on the Precious Garland of the Supreme Path by the incomparable Gampopa.
Sanje tam je je ngo re dang jin ko re jam su chap da ye ka ding song ba mi be pan gon chen chin la ma tam be shab je de trama mi ba la ngo ve rap de de ku be san sa shen chap sen ji o ju sin je la ba ran ze de so 남다 추름 잠에 사제라 등진 밤에 랑고 벤지 시람니 대나웨 추공사라 tum조동 공주베게레 엄소 닝도 진변 바열리만르 로드 진베 지근드니즈 저바 진베 좀저지안데 로자 진베 샤라 소르바안데 님데 진베 그다체네제 갑제 진베 라마니 바란제 Jinbe Jibe Jansinze Arepa Jinbe Shabla Sorva and Tiba Jimbe and Choyons Se Saja Jimbe Dobang the Jeran Tele Chimbon Kadan Yambaradar Ningum Jimbe Shabla Sorva and Shivsan Kalan Chirab Jinkoroje Zebe Tongtrzelena Po Jarvatimba Kune Sanzepa Kajur Bochilang Kusanza. Ordinor Jin Chaware Kun Chabda Lama Karma Pai, Chingur Kunjan June Sija Pamjo Yada Namjorma, Chile Kunja Sipo Waju Chujong Bechi Jamdala, Namjo Teche Guben de Don Dame Tuji Jongwa Jara Kunja Techi Shik, Chik de Bakari Takarawa, and Pamjo Jiki was old to Burke, Kamson Dover Lamaranga. Parkinsavala Marambochi, Daki Vorbe made in Yola, Karin Jimbe Gone, Jizon de Coson Tujing, Sanje Gondanyam Naya, Gadin Sanje Gon Elabangon, Zavala Meshavla, so on the Dawson Dovolona, Jus Kadasoki, Ongejetina, the Shiloma Jabagan. Intended Timbe Jen Jambe, Simbrande Batam Jen de Namoria Dambala, Gedan Luton, King, Tum Dadambe, Kinam Dan, Roaku, Daki Chamba, Tamjeke, the Dage Chuti, Majan Roa Namkan Tadanyam Besimjin Tamji, Sijedungan Tadale Drate, Namdor Tinja Deva, Lana Mipa, Yang Taba, Zoba Sanji Jokom, Parambochi, the Nichine Jang Tabasha. 다대 치的담배去什么的你促进的心内你不能把就讲不过的心肠。
O benevolent root guru, who is in essence all Buddhas of the past, present, and future, with great devotion I prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for you by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala expanding throughout space in knowledge of all things, beautiful thousand-fold light striking the lands of trainees, fully illuminating all of Buddha's teachings in their entirety. With devotion I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu. O glorious and precious root guru, please take seat of lotus at my heart. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all Buddhas in kindness to me, I pray at the feet of my root guru, O protector, please turn the minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you have become disciples of the Sagatas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, may you come here. Namo, in languages of Devas, Nagas, and Yakshas, languages of Kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking, all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully, without distraction, to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
올라서 다들라 다들은 아침만 투도 마시도 다들 뭐 무juk 취 마시는 거는 흔적 취도도 좀 마시긴 있어.
So before proceeding into our main subject matter, we'll do our preliminary practice explanation.
아니 자세치 뭐 시와라게 대완도 잡도 먹고 랑게 대와다단죠. 도할 돈도 생유자 도르니랑 버죠. 송네. 아니 마랑추 로암마 쪼르시바 심지차 마 대완데 너그 요리데 데베 적강이 바데 드마시베. 제 동한 너그 요 말이데 동할 그 줄라 아니 님치 퇴적도 배트시. 어디 살아도 어떻게 요리. 어디 지방 요리.
So as the Master Shantadeva has said, although beings want happiness, they destroy its causes, and although they don't want suffering, they run right into it. So although beings want happiness, they don't know how to create the causes for it. And though they don't want suffering, they continue to create the causes for it. So this is the situation of all limited sentient beings.
이들이 땅아랑주 제땅 그 돈이 매일 띵셔야 돼. 하자 짜치고 하자게 치고 매일 띵데다 매 심띵되니. 아니 누가 진례도 지발 봐봐. 근데 지 차대 되잖아. 띵 뒤 그당 심띵 뒤라 뚜리지가 같이 내가 돼. 내가요 말이지. 배낭아랑주 띵데 하자 짜치 버리데. 아니 또 로글 띵나 이제 칼라사야 잡을줘야 아니 대선 강바 아니 델란딘더당 탑주당 아니 랑키당 인팡 걸로던데 신음에 된다대와 아니 랑그 생거 토라 쪼거 토니 유대와리 싶으니 뭐 유대와 간치라 아니 델라양 심디델라 대바 넘바 수거 토니 당거 대바 이기 대바 아니 셈바도 버대바 대바나 마숨이 요리데 아니 대배주 양 세고 돈 땅 마타가 지네 아니 셈데 딱바르실라 아니 니모 독점당 아니 니모 동알아 수베지 왕도 전에 어떻게 차도 요리지.
So the human life is something that's very precious and valuable, and yet sentient beings don't, and we don't act accordingly. We conduct ourselves more like those of the animal kingdom, just taking care of their immediate needs, food, and clothing, protection. We work to clothe ourselves and feed ourselves, and to help our friends and defeat our enemies. And likewise, we don't take advantage of the kinds of faith that a precious human life has, a clear faith, the faith of conviction, faith of aspiration. We don't live up and take advantage of those qualities of faith that we could.
아니 드리도 전에 락버드 다 드랍니 셔착지바 다테 드랍디 토네나 스응읍이 밤죠 다 화전된 수침보 이 나니 상계다 출치해당 hay knowledge 스가라다 딘디 거데 빼 마시 야제 침보지 송 아니 디진데게 아니 나랑주 삼디 스응읍이 밤죠데 생기 대치기 차진질을 손을 약보래도 대 마상와지네 내가 아니 생나 답색당 생디 이선 랑치네 열 하정 열수진의 망 열수진의 하정 망보지를 찾았잖아요. 아니 생을 시와메 봐. 생을 대와메 봐. 왜나 나랑주 내서 작업 아메리칸다 지나. 법딩기 작업 잡을래니 야제기 인식이 요리. 이 법딩기 작업이 최대 가와를 작이 요리 시디다니 생을 비 밤죠 건 진족. 근데 장장가 토란 주차당. 근데 장장 토란이 진족세네. 아니 디진데게 롱바텔레 네들만 망보지라 셈라 아니 지보메와 셈라 대와메바 당우유 내처든지 차도 요리지.
And instead, our minds are always subject to mental afflictions and delusions. We subject to attachment, aversion, and ignorance. And in particularly in our 21st century, where there's been so much technological advancement, in my opinion, that has just created more distractions for people. For instance, in America, there's we call this one of the superpowers of the world. But what makes it a superpower? It's largely in the context of that advancement of technology and weaponry, and so there's so much objects, there's so much publicity, advertisements, everything bombards us with the objects of our senses, and it just creates more distraction and it more unhappiness for the people who live here.
니들자니 니그 내당라 렘들자니 니 나랑치 당연히 삼로 망보지 땅나 yapla samlo tang, döla samlo tang, yela samlo tang, yunla samlo tang, kawala te, kawani samlo tang na yang, ta senki shibde, lam chik yu pa te, ane tambi chu. Nguyu ne cho korang la, chadi yurisi.
And with these distractions in front of us, back of us, to our right and left, everywhere, the only path that we can find to true inner peace is that the inner spiritual development of Dharma.
내도 있잖아. 다 취소해야 돼. 간데 자침보린도 지도 있잖아. 취소해야 돼. 이와 스마케 말랑와 있나요? 친디 토랑아랑 저거 취소해야 돼. 간사 간식이 주라. 아니 맞다봐. 쪼르세밖에. 아니 뇌총 초신 삼인지 라서 빠쪼르세밖에. 산지에 때랑 팝번 너든소. 나랑주 노르데 생의 밤저당 강바들라 야기 요리 산제게 노르시아데 퍼퍼 노르드 대당 수춘 똥락공바당 특别주저 피우고 사시 실험 person 더 노르든 버시 나체탕 거니 삼바든 니제당 아니 진레 진바 동야당 실합당 라소바 초시당 그래서 걸어 숨고 요리 리도 잔이 든지 가랑주 강사 지금 줄라 유와이나 마친디 링나 마치 줄라 유나 숨브링데라 유나 아니 신을 시와요 봐 신을 대와요 봐 신송적 생기니까 고함다라 마소나 터모다 송적 어떤지 차대 요리지
So what we in general consider to be wealth, external wealth, is not at all what Buddha considered wealth. There was something he called the 7 jewels of the Aryas, of noble beings, which were things like keeping pure morality, developing wisdom, practicing generosity, and a feeling of contentment within ourselves, and so on. These qualities which really protect our inner being, protect our mind, are what Buddha really considered the true wealth. And then to remember impermanence, remember the transitoriness of things, these kinds of things that accord with reality and lead to inner peace.
If you don't believe the next life,
even if you don't,
even
if you don't believe in future lives, the kinds of wealth even for this life.
내 남자 주도 취해야 되나? 그바 좀신 숨 시작해요. 종아이나 취해야 돼. 좀 산지적 공방 토발. 산지적 공방 토발 세네. anything 알아라니 공방 토 찾을 심지가 던져야 돼. 앙당보 대차래요. 대 송아이나 앙당보. 대달 마성와이나요?需要不 지요아이나. 다다 공도 시바나시 마다 바꿔라. 로야고 장대니 매제이나. 시가 그 값이. 시가 그 적다 그 동할때. 최근 직장 그 동안 빼치 뭐지 요리 인직장 그 동안 뭐 용하다 그 많이 봐 앙당보다 산재적 공방 도봐 니바데 최근 직장 당 바디 동안 라서 발에 쫓고 봐 아니 타나양 며칠 네 값을 아니 선바치보 세네 강아 랍다 럼바 마보지 가서는 최대 그 요리 그 강아들라 돈이 실게 가르쳐 건 순찬달라 마서는 거랑 바담바 게비시니나 베 야는 힌지 침보인 송유리 마제가 선투바 자와이나 판 투바 잡나 데 탑 개분 투바도 말이지 맞다 레야 말이지 파천 투바 잡는 값서 파틴 투바가 린텔라 닌지 이거 자와이나 아니 콜 종라가 유리 추랑라 캡상라가 유리 송 야는 힌지 침보인 송도 어떤 데도 자네 신디 메체케레나 아니 강한 망보지를 쫓다 하나양 다든상 잠벨린 디강나 니마르레 인데 미 소소소지 니베 망보이 다 라시자니 하나 때 수고를 쫓다 봐 어떤지 요거 요리 주셔야 돼요 와이나.
So I often think about 3 levels of Dharma practice. At the best, optimum level is that attainment of full enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. And secondly, if that's not possible, then to practice the Dharma in such a way that we remember impermanence and well prepare for our passing away from this life so that we are not afraid or regretful when we leave this life. And even if that's not possible, then practice of Dharma should give us a way of dealing with the challenges of life. There's so much problems that we meet up with in the course of our lives. And as it said, the best response is compassion. When there's beings that are fighting with us or harming us, rather than responding in similar fashion by fighting back or arguing and so on. The best response is to feel compassion, develop compassion for beings. And there's the challenges of life are so great that even people commit suicide these days. They kill themselves. So the practice of Dharma should be able to give us methods by which we can face these challenges in such a way as to meet them with more skillful means and to protect ourselves.
Any tela, Muni number tabachi, Chuba Yang Tabachi Chagwaina. How to Julang Nimjong te some Ewaina Nimjong the mind that charge yata. Niban you what Sutum you want to say this in a Drakanania. Niban you what Sutum you want to say this. Yet on bote, Nanchi also so by yet, Yapper the Tiki Nanchi also by yet. Nimjong Zawasene. He told us something, he told Tony Katawa. This something that Tony Katawa need a lump mumma by Shene, and it's opposite your compound Tobarsiba. And it's Yin don't go out on the Tupasiat. The day that's on him, Jong say at the Pemasi Tachibori Yata.
And as it's explained, in the teachings in the scriptures, the real foundation of any qualified Buddhist practice is a renunciation, a true wish for liberation from the round of cyclic existence. And it's only on that basis that one can then develop compassion for others, and then the aspiration for full enlightenment and the attainment of full enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. So that foundation of a wish for freedom, our own aspiration for liberation from samsara is the real foundation of any qualified Buddhist practice.
Ranting la, Rangjula, Ninjo Namachimena, Yil Hinje, some Hinje. Simply Devata Devajota de Bertusi. Samsana, on Naturang Munam de second one. I pray for you. These some of the Yunya Koran you marry song.
So as Tsongkhapa said in the great stages of the path to enlightenment, that if we don't have this aspiration for liberation, to liberate ourselves, then any kind of compassion that we express is not true. It's not soundly based. We make prayers, oh, may all beings be happy, have freedom. They say, I'll pray for you. But if we don't have this true sense of renunciation of samsara, the real wish to leave samsara, to free ourselves from the suffering nature of samsara, then any kind of aspiration of compassion for the sake of others is not fully qualified. It's not deeply based.
All the way.
I'll go some.
Get the battery. I changed this battery.
Can soon go to
all of us. Any Akarjala, already Nimjong say at Nimjong say at the country to Sidutane. Ye Dani Chimboke. Lakpar the Lamso Namson and Sonyura. Amjun Nika Silla long me by Yilla competition in Hanshi dog. Lemde Milton Corbett Dongana Yilla some specimen Hanshi dog. At the sick the pen mass in Nabori. Narangju Tata Lodo Naba Yesura, Lord Dog say at the Sin Dilla Lord of Wachitang, Sismani Lord of Wachitang. pena tata ngarang chu hoa lang ni ban jong ne sin di pho tang sin di par yong la ni mek thong ne di ni mek thong ya te ke 가른 통그 요리 시대 자네 차반 뒤지게 동하던 통그 요리 집시 차반 뒤지게 동하던 마통그 바르드 신딩 이게 더터고 요 말이 가인시나 나랑도 다다 oh today I am very happy oh today is so beautiful I went to the beach with my friend I eat good food oh today is so wonderful tendency ke samlong khorde ya de kalang khor ko yori sidi tane ta te ngunne tane takta dewa chirindo sabachi kin jurut dongar chikla dewalan jing ko yori se saje ngarang chi dongar te chaban dusi ji dongar te tang jurut dongar ni ke nani jurut dongar ta chaban dusi ji dongar ti sung ko nani ti chaban dusi ji dongar te ngachu teng po ko yo mare chaban dusi ji dongar te teng ma po ha ma wa ina any chen delang ngui ji to to ko yo mare
So as Tsongkhapa says in his three principal aspects of the path, that precious life is rare and lasts not long. Knowing this stops clinging to this life. Knowing karma's infallibility and samsara's pain stops attraction to future lives. So, no, we primarily do not understand the suffering of pervasive karmic conditioning. And as long as we don't understand that, how we're trapped in samsara, then we see this, what's the nature of suffering of change as true happiness. And we seek those impermanent sorts of happiness and think that they're true pleasure. We'll go to the beach, have nice food, and think, oh no, this is true happiness. So as long as we don't understand the nature of suffering of change and suffering of pervasive karmic conditioning, we can't really see this suffering nature of samsara. We seek those pleasures that are transitory.
So
there's a lot to say, but we'll leave that at this point. That?
Lasso, that you see job jepa. The Rindoa, you see job jepa. Any rando rangisip, chu say a derisha.
So we've reached the 18th set in Gampopa's instructions, which are called 10 ways of accomplishing one's own disaster, or finding one's own ruin.
And the Chiranju Namja Judang, humanity she, but the J Gampopa up Pacha law Jibja Gubja Pacha Kasin Rogonata. Pakanda the chick cups, J Gampopa Kadamba Givishi chick. Lumba Kukyo chick, Shubat and the chick, Lapar the Kadamba, that Jason Rangi in say the knee down, Kakadamba in say the knee. Any Chitung or Malakadamba Jason Raman, Public, any Lamata Kashi chigla, the choose on Yaji Chad Yurida. The thing as a Jabjung thing at the Hakoya the Kitchen in the war. Did any pain the Dharma Mambo you repeat the song and sometimes harm over. Korang tu solid in the come back a pay down the pay so this is the Mandawa Chidote Takang Tachang, the Chad Yuris.
So one thing I want to emphasize about these instructions is first remember the background. This was Gampopa teaching a number, rather small number of lamas, of monks, in the 9th or 10th centuries in an area that was, extremely isolated. So they were really true spiritual practitioners, particularly these practitioners of the Kadam tradition founded by Atisha. And so sometimes when we look at these things, the context is not obvious to us. There's the examples are not easily understandable, and so it's important for us to remember the context of where and how and to whom, these teachings were being given.
Okay, also. 다 담보대 그 zamme 빈 침탑 시반에 림베 진도 수바단 라데 란도랑기 뉴바이 취미 득바 시바데 뉴바 영원 총화단 라데 란도랑기 세바이 예라 저서 시바데 또 긴제 카진 디바단 라데 란도랑기 세바이 레총 못 시바데 김밀로 속종화단 라데 란도랑기 세바이 락삼지 인도는 맞준베 춥제제 란도는 준바네 농화 상탕는 콜와단 라데 란도랑기 세바이 Mendup sawa timbo chilan jupane nyamchong khur chimbo khurwatan rade randorangi sebai. Ngajaji lama tamba tang jawaka chid subate wambo chin duma tawatan rade randorangi sebai. Nyamni shone mana ka tonglan dumbate rada chulung to babatan rade randorangi sebai. Nyoma yishim machongwa dunzi tripe yingwa sipate khardengi shoba chobatan rade randorangi sebai. Lama conchogo cola pami de chubate, chum menda gambatan rate, rando rangi sebai. Tene rando rangi sebe chucho yinos.
So there are 10 ways of accomplishing one's own disaster. When a single person marries, it is like a fool eating virulent poison and is the purchase of one's own disaster. Wrongdoing devoid of Dharma is like a lunatic leaping into an abyss and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Deceiving others with charlatanism is like serving poisoned food and accomplishes one's own disaster. For someone of little intelligence to lead people is like an old woman guarding cattle and is the accomplishment of one's own disaster. To exert oneself in benefiting oneself, motivated by the 8 worldly dharmas, rather than exerting oneself in benefiting others through an excellent motivation, is like a sightless person wandering the northern steppes and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Undertaking a great endeavor that one cannot accomplish is like a weak person trying to carry a heavy burden and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Disregarding through pride one's holy guru and the victor's teachings is like a rash ruler ignoring his counsel and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Deferring practice and wandering through the communities of ordinary people is like a wild animal wandering into an inhabited valley and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Not fostering natural wisdom, but being disturbed by the elaborations of distractions is like a garuda breaking its wings and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Carelessly consuming the property of the guru and the 3 jewels is like a small child cramming burning embers into its mouth and is accomplishing one's own disaster. Those are the 10 ways of accomplishing one's own disaster.
Lasso. Tateke nerevala china batati. Tenda ochim reva using at time revala.
Okay, so around
I hope nobody do like this. By the way.
Oh, okay. I hope no one accomplishes their own disaster like this.
Yeah, good translator. Okay. That is Zamme mi pen chimtap sibata limbe tindu supadan that is. That is called the mambo shugo samari. Jetang Zamme mi siade zatang name mi basi. The cook me ba. In Hansa Jabate. The Kandenda Sungona. Jetang Chansa Jayate. The Tokichi and Chansa Jayatang. The Tok Maina Sosolayang. Zatang you go in the Jani. That is called Chiba Yorwa. That is Chiba Simado. The Zamme siate, Zamme mi siate. 창사 잡찰이 지라 부근들한테 맞지와이나 세 다 디측들이도와 친답시 바데 린데 진독수 바데 님보요 말이세야 다지다 근데리야 다 강다 데텔레 시발면도 다 데다 데다와 마보도와 라도랑이 뉴바인시.
So when a single person marries, it's like a fool eating virulent poison, is the purchase of one's own disaster. So, in marrying or having a household, there can be a harmonious household or there can be a disharmonious household. So this is not differentiating here, but it's like saying that if there's no purpose to it, for instance, if there's no children, then it doesn't make much sense if one enters into a marriage or household that is very disturbing to one's mind.
나서 어느 니바데기 취미 득바시바데 윤바 영런 총화당 자데 시다 취매네 아가지가 취 따와니네 마세네 취 삼로 짱니 망포네 매체 코랑라 득바 짱짱 세네 근데 지그 세네 아니 샤스와이나 아니 윤바 영런 총화다 지바레 이시 안디나니 오다 라서 담보데서.
So then, if one does not practice Dharma but remains engaged in harmful actions, then that's really like a crazy person just jumping off a cliff.
단디나니 가르팅 그 요리시드 짜네 마랑도 매일 띵그 구방 오마데 칼라 사야 직당 잡라 주야 직당 대선 강바 직당 든데세네 션로야 지금 미치 구두 오마데 때 말이다 미치 구두 오마데 올라서 담보대서.
So this is saying, that the true purpose of a human life is not simply just to feed and clothe and house ourselves.
미치 구두 오마데 가레리시드 짜네 미치 구두 오마데 nga랑솔라 람라는 메바 남도 추 은발라는 메바 산제 애니 딱 게긴 라는 메바 소치 짜블라마 람티스 마노바 토니 애니 남부 추를 쇼네 땅문에 세와이나 디그 토니 인동 그 인라레 갈레 투비치케 추 구동 오마데 가레리 시드 짜네 추를 슈리 구동 오마데 특히 그 람니 시바이나 인기 치드 쇼고 여러와 인동 콜라 동네 쪽 치드 쇼고 여러와 네도 잔데 디소라 갑소 디소라 숭아이나 아니 메체 동다데 마차게 요리시.
So the true purpose is being said here of a human life is to rely upon an unsurpassed teaching, an unsurpassed path, an unsurpassed teacher, and in this way to benefit others. When we engage in the great way, the Mahayana teachings of Buddha, the real purpose of that is to be of service to others.
스바데게 진라 소조 시바데 또 긴지 가진디 바지 소조 세야된 디네 소조 같색데람 요지스기 요지스네 진랑고 오르당 진라 짜즈시 랑 캡상기 치 판비치데 요지스네 진랑고 오르당 짜즈시 디콜라시기.
So this term in Tibetan, sosok, being translated here as charlatanism, refers to kind of self-seeking cheating of others, of lying to others, of deceiving them, acting in a deceptive way, for one's own self-seeking purposes.
nghe tin là chị giá chúc thì người vậy
Hmm?
thế là chưa chưa đủ à chúc chiếc xin chị giá chúc là nghe I want to add one more here 11
He wants to add one more to these to make it 11 instead of 10.
mới khẳng là chiếc big xuân là đea tiền nè any big xuân là đea tiền nè tông big xuân là đea tiền nè big xuân là đea tiền nè rung sinh là sẽ là đea tiền ra thì tuổi mi chắc chắn gì
So Rinpoche says something
chắc
about
chắn gì
like a wild animal staying in the wilds of Big Sur, and that's something
just
accomplishing one's
joking
own disaster. Just joking.
just joking that somebody live in the big sur like the rabbit live in the forest no yeah
There's like a rabbit in the forest.
any le chung mo po si pa de gim su lo kyong da de si ta le chung se ya de ke sam lo ja chung chung ji la le pa chung chung se ya de ke sam lo ja chung chung pu jang rin bo la sam lo tang ma shi wa ta pun bo se ya de la pu jang rin bo ji la sam lo tong wa tong thu ya ji lo ho ja chin bo yo wa de be ji le xie ke yo wa le pa chung chung se le chung mo po si pa de ge mo ke su lo kyong da de si ta ge mo ke su lo kyong se de 이제 gengo mola de lo chimbo cheke norta ya ta rata lok la so pa so chong si ko na kale khabu yo ro wa ta de de sung me ro
So for someone of little intelligence to lead people is like an old woman guarding cattle, is accomplishment of one's own disaster. So here the reference to little intelligence is saying someone with not a lot of capacity, not a lot of scope, the opposite of having, great capacity and courage, and that's like an old woman guarding cattle or sheep. If an elderly woman was left to guard the treasury for all the wealth of the community, it would be very difficult for her to do, right?
I think so saba laksam ji yin do la ma chun par chu ji ji rang do la chu ba ta de ni de pe ma si ya bo ji do laksam ji yin do la ma chun ba si laksam se ya de ka dam pe ta da jim de me nga dun ka na ni mar chi ba den de ba din zo wa yong ka sam ba ze wi ni ji laksam san chu ka sim se ya de laksam se ya de ta san chu ka sim ki yong ma ning top da de la chi ka yuri de de chan de re yi de jumde me nga dun de re yi de so ma gwa chi laksam chi pa song do wa jumde me nga dun ka nang de laksam de ke chi bo yi de chan de che lang ne laksam me na laksam se ya de ning top 심지 담지 그 동아 피시기 삼바티 될 학삼스기 요로 근데 인도 자네 학삼지 인도는 맞은 빠디 독소게 직디 추비가 토니 랑라 뜨라 땅나 가와 랑라 뜨라 마땅나 마가와 랑라 페샤 니나 가와 랑게 페샤 마니나 마가와 라소 바틴 직디 추비 근데 지가 토니 아니 랑게 되는 주에 대바이나 아니 롱와 상탕랑 롱와 상탕랑 콜와탄 다테 라도라 그 시바인시
To exert oneself in benefiting oneself, motivated by the 8 worldly dharmas, rather than exerting oneself in benefiting others through an excellent motivation. It's like a sightless person wandering the northern steppes, accomplishing one's own disaster. So this reference to an excellent motivation in Tibetan laksam is one of the steps in bodhicitta meditation, where one recognizes all living beings as having been one's mother, remembers their kindness, develops the wish to return their kindness, develops loving kindness, and then compassion, and then this excellent motivation, or you could say an extraordinary motivation, then bodhicitta. So that excellent motivation is actually the cause, the direct cause of developing bodhicitta, that aspiration for enlightenment for the sake of all beings. And what this excellent motivation is it's a mind of great courage. It's a mind of a feeling of universal responsibility that I myself will liberate all beings. I'll do it myself, and so it's a mind of great courage and great compassion. And so, if one acts, without such a motivation, and instead, is consumed by the 8 worldly dharmas, for instance, being excited and happy when one is praised, and disappointed and discouraged if one is not praised, being happy if one gets money or something, and being unhappy if one doesn't get it, and so forth. That if one acts in this way, then it's like a blind person, wandering around in a bleak landscape.
나서 두바데가 문르페사와 심보치는 주반에 문르페사와 심보치는 주반에 냥청고 커친보 커와단다 문르페사와 담보 레가데 두블리캅스 두사리아 두사마리 레가데 마두블리코나 두스 아키시 고송요 페나 자세치부 시와라케 했던요라 짬마야나 마짬사 마짬빠든 초니데 짬내 똑바르면서 말이다 담본 조와 따네네 짬만 양나 마짬사 마짬빠든 초이데 짬나 똑바르면서 오시 담보랑게 유출로 따네 레가데 레투사리야 말이 사모땅 레투사리나 레가데 렌죽 레가 렌죽 찰리 값서 짬마야나 마짬빠든 초니데 마지는 느끼리 야야는 느끼리시 지금 제 찰리 값을 내가 타르신버시 거리시 타 추바지시 거리시 짬내 똑바로 메사오시시 아주 대상들의 요거도와 추식이 인세도 로카시질의 추시 나와 카시질의 같이 시사리 삼상다시 추시 아니 유마르디 베드 코란 육장신의 요거도와 어떤 신이 그 말이 소화하다 되는데리 문르페사와 침보치는 주바
Undertaking a great endeavor that one cannot accomplish is like a weak person trying to carry a heavy burden and is accomplishing one's own disaster. So, before engaging in an action, we should check to see whether we're really capable of doing that. Shantideva, in his guide to the Bodhisattva conduct, says something to the effect of, if we decide we can do something, then never turn back. But if it's something that we can't do, then better to leave it. So it's important to check to see if we're capable of doing something, and if we decide that we can do it, then to do it without turning back. If we see that it's something we can't do, then it's okay to leave it. But if we think there's something that we can do, then the best thing for us to do is to carry it through to the completion. Sometimes people get excited about Dharma practice, and they practice it for a few months or maybe some years, but then finally think, I can't do this, and give it up. So we shouldn't act like that. When we think that there's something that we can do, then we should carry it through to the completion to create the imprint of being able to do what we seek to accomplish.
엘라 제 공탕상계 공탕 때문에 되면 그런데 손요리 니레 세장 메딘 춘드 좀 담보 난치를 사발아 쇼니도 그런데 지금 요리시 니레 세장 메딘 춘드 좀 난치를 제 효원도 악사시노 다들 배 야본도 시네네 니 말에라 칼라야 무산네 니 춘드 좀 니레 세장 메딘 춘드 좀 약숨 체 맞다 니네 시점에 준비 좀 약숨 런치 지미 인외체 그 강들이 이제 맞아 니네 시점에 준비 휴마탄에 탑바 공방도 아니 람상 코란치 제대 상태들 지금 너 남바들 쇼를 값 따따랑 상진으로 고유시야. 아다 추냠리시네 상인의 세는 유란로 고유시야. 약슴마다 휴마탄이 타포 공방도 약슴르치 지미 이외 체 니마슴선 로차디다니 나와슴선 로차디다니 제로고 요리시 지미 이외 체 렌다 텔라치 엄용we 줌바 추준지 띵 준데 띵지 앙송 준주시야데 갈레 멘트데 장사네 갈레 로다 다와 갈레 로야리 마도 람상 아다 공도 시바나지 오시야 말이 송티 롱데 빼니 요도와
Then Lama, great master named Kungtang Tempe Drame, said something to the effect of, and I can't get the quotation, literally, but to the effect of that, perseverance doesn't mean, getting very excited and trying hard for a few days. It should be like a continuous river that flows. So sometimes people get very excited as a new Dharma practitioner and think I need to transform myself by tomorrow or attain enlightenment very quickly, and expect it to happen in a few days or weeks, but then it doesn't, and then then a month later completely forgetting about it. So that's not the skillful way to practice perseverance. It should be like it's unceasingly flowing river that continues.
나서 나저지 라마 담바탄 자바칼라 치드 수바데 왕보 치인데 마토라탄 다데란도랑 시바지시
And disregarding through pride one's holy burden, disregarding through pride one's holy guru and the Buddha's teachings is like a ruler ignoring his counsel and is accomplishing one's own disaster.
나저세야데 빼 kaddu ina yang ko ngajar seyate ngajar ke jodate yakpa den se che yore rek yakpa ane yonte ki jakpa langcho ke jakpa se na tate yuwa chik la ngala te yu samba chik ngala lobjong tenda chi yu nga jo chimbo yin nga reng thombo yin ane ngala namban jimo yu nga yina mandawachi yin samba chike simde sim ta karese ke yubate ngaja ke jure chaka yuri ha ko so ti ngaja ke jute kaddu ina yang semle yu choko do lama chike ndene sunga ina yang ngalang le ti se lob jong da os yuwa ina lama chike ndene chu shuwa ina lame chu je songwa ina lama de ti se khani non de ti sunga ina ya ane lamsa ta nge shi ke yo lame shi ke mendo samba chike yang ti ta ke ngaja te ke 용식의 도와 레총바 가장에 담주시에 가서 레총바당 밀라레바 코란이 레총바 자발라 말이 밀라레바 이네 코란 가자도 갑도 이네양 라마 같이 뛰네양 가자도 만 용금도 와 근데 가전 조약이 치데 이제 밀라레바 아니 레총바 자라당 자니 마용의 값은 아니 코란 그 토잉이 그 이게 된다 마보지 그런데 아니 이제 밀라레바 그때 메라당 사마 chuku drup golike khur golike ni jaan papu yone nangbu chu de khur madosi khur mogolike matek pa kan thotang nga tan de mambo ji khur yas ini mera tang ani re chong pa long na ta chu pe sa so nga ta la song de la kale shib ta chu pe sa so se ni jipte malare pa ni zum thirti ne yara ga bolan june ya kra chu ga bolan june ani seba pawa loji yo ha ta shui ba
Lola sinian de shung pecha de so mecha tamba de yama sumbe. Lotus. Okay, so now with regard to pride, there are many different kinds of things that someone might develop pride about. Say their family being an important family, or their education. Their appearance, they might feel that they're so, handsome or pretty, And and it's a very obstructive kind of force. It's a disastrous kind of quality, because for instance, say they're listening to the spiritual master, and they hear something that sounds mistaken in that master's speech, and then they think, oh gosh, I know this better. They develop pride, thinking they know better than the teacher. And I told that story last time about Milarepa and his disciple Rechompa. Milarepa was Rechompa's guru, but the more he learned from Milarepa, the more prideful he became. It didn't serve to diminish his pride, and so Milarepa sent him to India to bring back these instructions. And there was that story Rinpoche told last time about, when Rechompa got back, then he's concealing himself inside the yak's horn and so forth. There was one part that Rinpoche didn't mention last time. Rechompa had brought back these scriptures, that were all very beautiful poetry, and he thought they were so valuable. And what Milarepa did, he took them and then he threw them in the fire, and he just burned them up. And Rechompa was very upset. He said, "Oh, this is terrible what you've done," And then Milarepa went on to demonstrate his miracle powers, like I told about last time, all as a means of destroying Rechompa's pride, which was blocking him from true spiritual development.
Lasso, and it give a decade. Damnation, Manaka, Toland, but that long to Papa than that is. And then a con the Shimba, the Gampopa, song goes like a yurte, the nanny, nothing musimate, song goes like a yurte. Number two, and Chupa Lama to hot in the song Yajan Nidoa. Lama to hot you count on the song Yajurishata. And then do Tane Yamni Shone, so you Lama to hawk a Chetu, and Yamni say, same Bela, any Jimmy and Train, Chansa Jab, song Yuri. Chetu any give she and Kimbo de Timilani, Chimsang Patrol Mamboka, apology, song Yuri. Oh, this you call a canton, that Danga Seate, Santolan Biba. Lamin Chot Sangla Golwata, Danga can Chot Santo de Pipa Suate, Canton that this is on Yajurido, Yamni Shone, Seto and Yamni say, Yamni Aboji say, Lo Mambo and Yamni say, Tibase, Sambase, Gombase, Yamni Sambose, Jumari de Manaka Tonga Mandam, Manaka Tongsina, any Chansaja, Pogo, Jimmy, Seto Chuba, the Timila, Temela, the Gincha. Oh, then the Chongina, anything the Yogi is.
Deferring practice and wandering through the communities of ordinary people is like a wild animal wandering into a valley, is accomplishing one's own disaster. Again, we want to remember here that Gampopa's audience was all lamas and monks, and so these were ordained people. They were people that had taken full ordination in Buddha's teachings. And when he says wandering the communities of ordinary people, he's talking about lay people, people who were not ordained, who were, so he was therefore saying that if you, who are lamas and monks, have studied a lot in the early part of your life, this first part of your life, you've listened to the teachings, you've contemplated them, you meditated on them. If you were to then, wander into communities of lay people, get married, and then engage in those kinds of activities relative to the previous part of your life, it would not be helpful. It would be harmful to you. You would be wasting that previous study that you have done, and bringing yourself like a wild animal into a place of ruin. Long de mi yebe long yamena shu long kare.
That long the Baba than that is. That long said, and then and Cholong or the Santang or the La. 요리 롱시아데 찌땅 처음에 사거든 되지라 시기요리 감사가 사자지라 시기요리.
So the main point of this valley that the animal is wandering into, it's meant to be a metaphor for a place where there's no Dharma.
라서 아니 뉴미 이시면 좀 완전히 뚜베 영화시 봐도 가장 효과죠. 단 내양 아토티라리도와 그다 보름 뭐지게 송 용수도 봐 참아대 알아 송 야주지리나 마도 애치랑서 마시에 요주지리도다.
So not fostering natural wisdom, but being disturbed by the elaborations of Garuda, of distractions, is like a Garuda breaking its wings and is accomplishing one's own disaster. So I want to again mention here that, Gampopa's instructions here are things that I find to addressing myself. These are not simply things that I'm talking to you about. Sometimes I feel that what he's saying is being primarily addressed to me.
뉴미 이시면 좀 와. 눈지 뚜베 영화시 봐시. 때문에 빼 마시반 당와야 보지르지 뉴미 이시면 좀 와시 뉴미 이시세야 된 가랑주 뉴말린지 집에 이시 세라와도 야네. 아니 딩뉴면 생공 올랐다네. 생공 어디 준종네. 어디데 지금 마시네. 눈지 그 뚜베 잉네. 근데 대 파야네. 인다 치기치다. 아니 눈지 그 뚜베 잉네. 어디데 시야데 카드 쪽바 차와 된다데. 되미. 라도랑 뉴바인스 소가서와.
So this natural wisdom that's being referred to here is the innate, primordial wisdom present within oneself, and rather than dropping into that and being disturbed by distractions of busyness, is like the ego with broken wings, and it accomplishes its own disaster.
Sometimes I talk with my student, I talk with my Dharma brothers, sisters, the Western people. Do you have a coffee, Samba?
Coffee
coffee tong so rich there. Sometimes I talk with my students, Dharma brothers, sisters, Western people, I told them people, I think you should practice the Dharma because you are my student. You follow me. I don't mean that I am a great practitioner. I am a good example. But now you and me, you find me. I find you. This is a karma. You should follow me. What I doing here, what I did. You just follow me. I try my best. I follow the holidays. I follow my Guru. They follow the Buddha and the Bodhisattva. This is most important is to find a good teacher. Next way. 그치 나 지라야 이제 개모랑 당데 지 괜찮은 거 노아니 가 시간 도 좋아해. 아야야야.
야보 인상은 게모 쇼기. 양앙에서 약초.
It's most important is the great teachers, find the great teacher, and he show you the right path. They go together. This is Jampa Tharchin Rinpoche, he said. It's most important is first, is good teacher, great teacher, practitioner teacher, not only just lineage, not knowledge, study so many years. It's a practitioner. He show you this path, then you have to follow him together, like the Marpa Loza, Milarepa, Gampopa. They spend time with the teachers, students, many, many years. Sometimes I talk with my students, I try to say this, but they say yes. But the next few days, I go see them, what they does, the same thing. Consultation, Does to pay university, so all saying. Then make the different busy sketch. Oh, I have to go gym. I want to go hang out with my friend next week. I see the calendars, my student. I want to see your calendars next week, last month, next month. What you doing? What you did it? I want to show. One thing, really, I talked with my student. I don't see the calendars. They say,
What kind clan is Senator Gary?
calendars in a little calendar.
Calendar. Oh, your calendar.
Calendar.
Okay. Your calendar. I want to see your calendar. Okay. Any Rinpoche Yang, Precious Garland of the Supreme Path, and Sanjay Karangi, the Lama Tamyaba di so chesha ro, sigidu.
네. 다ቴ인데 아니 코란스 디 칼렌드 디 나나 가레티도 때나 nga tomola thuyayo nga topola thuyayo sani gonda nga tomo salan royai nani gonda nga topo salan royai sani nga kaji kaji la ringolan royai chamchanan rogi siale mato din zerem ke kalend tignana tena nimachil nge gom jagi chuchu chuni chuchi pada ngala gom yu sia ti ya ju kin thoma so e nimachil nge nga loma te layin ba.
So when I was looking at the calendar, one of my students, I was looking, and he said, well, this day I'm going to meet my boyfriend, and this day I'm going to meet my girlfriend, and then tomorrow night I'm going to meet my boyfriend, and tomorrow, and so on, and then this I plan to go on vacation, go out on a trip up the mountains, or whatever, and I don't see anything notified like, from 10 to 11 this day I'm going to do meditation, or I don't see that on the calendar.
Oh, laso, tate ngen tuche da chiri, tate ke nyamne shonne. Mada nyume yishi ma chongwan de tipe yawar si pa de khaden shoba chawanda tate randora ki seba yins.
Well, that's in regard to this getting involved with busy, distractions.
Ani teke ani lama koncho ko kola pami de chuba de pachong mendang gamba de tate randora ki seba yins.
And carelessly consuming the property of the guru and the three jewels, it's like a small child cramming embers into its mouth, is accomplishing one's own disaster.
Yatang kor se ya de kande si jurku yuri, kor se ya de inchi le tse yuri ba.
It's Kali Kapore. Rinpoche is asking about this word core, which in general means the property of the guru and the three jewels, but it actually refers also to the misuse of such property.
The pig nana corsen na pe masi. Jitso korang nana corgus damasi, corgus says in a pe masi do yachil tsiki. Tamin de shi jagomar, corsia de kandima hagoyuri.
So, for instance, if somebody was said to be eating core, they be consuming something that actually belonged to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, or the Guru, they consider it just one of the worst things that you could do.
Tandina ni corsia de penang rangchun di chuto de la pe yawain and di chuto de any chuka choba di chadi. Chuka choba de a kala dapo yuri citizen lama de dang, lama de yindung lega, yimping chid lega. And they check a chuka choba di chadi di jani. Di chuka choba ke nana, jodang, pam jodang, udang, kandichi yawain de pachi me yimba cheke pechu tang yawaina, and he call a chan of yuri. He koranga pechu tang the call a chan de lama katro me yin the koranga and the che yawaina, the call suyan in Yibadeke. Jiwan ben chamang bolan nyawala jiak. And doinani song you, Sanjak and doinani song you, Nagan and mambo song you. All the mambo song you.
So, for instance, this center is a Dharma center, which is meant to be for the sake of benefiting living beings and supporting the teacher for that purpose of bringing benefit to living beings. And so, if some of that wealth or what's the resources that are meant for that purpose are used in a selfish way for an individual or something like that, then in many of the sutras and the tantras, it said that this creates the cause to be born in the worst hells, for ages of time. It's just considered to be terribly bad karma because, it undermines the welfare of infinite living beings.
아니 롱골링지레 봐 일단 루바가주가 라마 섬지메 차발라마 지레니 콩 아니 내콜라 팸네 위장촌이 내콜라 팸 마드네 메콜 팸데 얀로 юм소스야 초지 얀로 юм소스 인 초게 남라 아니 시조데 응운시게 아니 초가 남네 응운시게 코랑 공박 응운시게 생도와 초가 낭드네 아니 냐침보지라 하게 냐침보지라 아니 냐충충소 캬 하정 만보지게 코랑 주보다 산 때 나착침보시 왜지 요아데 린 초이 난게 냐침보되니 초이 담니 아니 롱골링지레 바케스 지데니 코랑 로마데서 스톤네 아니 꼴기 니메 꼴기 득바 이갑스 송 살리 값으니 당에 되는 꼴기 니메 양도 юм친다니 시 고리 юм친 가네시나 당에 지난서 띵기지 아니 코랑게 깨지질란데 세버 담데잖네 양도 юм조건 초되니 마 초도 마트스 마 뇽도 송도잖네 아니 냐침보지라 아니 속 참번 참망보게 사데게 좀보 산 아니 코란티 나차데게 아니 신이 알로잖아 아셔마타 같은 일이돼요 아니 코란게 대 아니 뭐마 우장그 손이 라마 짱따나 지시야지게 라마 빼 마시던데 침보지게 아니 녀바지게 라마데 녀바데 어떤데지게 기와리 야지 녀바시데 라마데 샵스데 기와리 야지 아고토와
That Lamagi Shabjidi Lama.
아니 라마게 샵스데게 라마게 주제데 바미데 라마라 표현적에 대비 제데네 코랑게 배주제 코랑게 나멜레테 코랑게 수 코랑게 배주 땅야데 디 넘버 메바데게 아니 냐데게 지와지자서 그래서 요리 다 찍라 찍데 소요라 가시 찍게 야 라마들이 있어고 요리 다 라마게 녀바들이 소요리 다데 수토니 요리 간다제 라마게 녀바들이 소요리.
Okay, the Tibetan names of the Lama and this lake, I'm not remembering at the moment myself. But so the story is that at a previous time in Tibet, maybe Rinpoche can remind me, the Lama de Tsengare, Lingjerepa, was on. Kare? So he was a Lama of the Kagyu lineage. Drupa Kagyu. The Drupa Kagyu lineage, and so he was on pilgrimage, and he came to this special lake. Now, so digimingare. Yamdro Yumso, the name of this lake. And it was a vision lake, and he was there with a number of his disciples, and through his clairvoyance he could see that there was this very large fish in this lake that was being tortured by many small fish that were eating away at it. And so through his miracle powers, he enabled his disciples to see that fish. He made the water go down in the lake so that the fish then appeared.
담보디 마티는 거는 되네 골기 니메지 정도아 소인당라 용의 그런 거 골기 득바다 골기 니메지 송 골기 니메지 송걸 중심의 가래시데 이 냐의 그런 거 식이 생겨와
Lotus. Yeah. And so when he enabled his disciples to see this, they could see this fish, being eaten by these many small fish, and and it was rolling around, but it couldn't die. It was just being tortured. And he said, this is the disastrous results of core, of using the property of the lamas, that are offerings that are made to the three jewels. And he could see the particular instance that there was one lama, and Lama Digimingare,
Tanachi.
Sangtana,
Tana is the black horse lama.
the black horse lama. And so, according to one version of the story, it was that there was one of this lama's attendants that would just take whatever was given to the lama and use it himself. And that this was the result. When this attendant died, it took birth as this fish, which was being consumed by the many small fish. And according to another version of the story, it was the lama himself who was misusing these offerings. But so he showed his disciples the direct results of such disastrous actions of using offerings that are made to the Guru and to the three jewels for selfish purposes.
So
I think we'll leave it here today. And if anyone has any questions or discussion that I'd like to bring up, we could have those today.
Chutin katsui na haku mundur mbuche ngate marangi change gyapshado mbuche chone nyumongba sumgi korla sungbe kabla nyumong kewe gyusum di chazanjik song ani di kaptela nyumongba kune nyumongba leki kune nyumongba kewe kune nyumongba landu sum mbuche chone Udi chik tishit chikarona shui katinche. Di chutun di tingi mindurum bichenge de gyablo de la chen chik tisha shadi. Tanda kane ine chikta du nyegi mindurum biche ine piche dis chutun nyama dewa chiki imbata biche.
Tatila Nimon Kive just some Siateke or Mumba Zun and a song Yorwa. Ambo Rangla Nimon Yuba Rangi La Takarasico Chadang just Chadang the Udevachi Tambo. To me, if Sikaloy Chadang the Udevachi say Tambo today. Niba deke Nimon Kies Chinde Shuranga Chapachigo and the Bawachigo and the Tanya Ochi Udeva. Somebody and it's me, if you can drop off. Some de la Nimonti with King. Some just something I think.
Sumpa de Gare, Sume?
Somebody to me, if Zike drop off. When a Churan Chadang Chawachika Yona, Metela, Churan to me, if Zika Nam talk about that depends Zimari, te Yapori, some Kot Dokjari, some Churanka Lok Dopasiki. This similar.
So the question was about the three causes of delusion that Rinpoche mentioned in a previous session, which were the delusion, the condition, and inappropriate attention. So first was the presence of attachment and aversion, the delusions, the mental afflictions in one's mind. Having those, the potential for those in one's mind. Secondly was the object condition, then meeting up with some object of mind or the senses that then gives rise to the delusion. And thirdly was this inappropriate attention which was basically exaggerating the aspects of that object in either a positive or negative way. In the case of attachment, thinking, oh, this is such a wonderful person or thing, and just thinking about it, emphasizing all its good qualities, so that there's attachment to it, but in an unrealistic way. Or in the opposite, thinking that this is a person or this object is so bad, and exaggerating the negative side and developing aversion. So these are the three causes for delusions arising in one's mind. What happened? We lost the sound. Can you hear me? Can you hear Rinpoche?
Not hear Rinpoche.
You can't hear Rinpoche.
I cannot. Can anyone else?
I can't hear him now.
다 뇨다 독 사바
Da yapo da yankya lepson.
다 뇨다 독 저랑 니라 다 난들 뇨다 독 들 뇨다
Oh, problem with the
야 아니
microphone.
근데 줄이 다 될라 저땅 대송 가능지 마찬가지나 대송 가능지 마찬가지나 아니 같이 가르치 거리 때 레지 뇨모 바당 지브 뇨모 바다 꾸니 뇨모 바 뒷뉴몽도 송은줄라 제토고요 말이지 하여튼 뉴몽 침보도 제토고요 말이지 그요 빼나 출랑라 뉴몽 유바 간식라 뉴몽세나 척바다 당와가 로 유바 간식라 척바다 당와데 타 니사질라 메나 양 람상 제초초면도 와 양 차단지에서 로드 타 니오질라 유바 간식라 양 출랑 거 로고 좁다 마세네 로고 좁다 마세네 출랑 다 되다 참아 찍바리 빼나 매치게 출랑라 독자세와이나 출랑라 첫 독자세리 내생 토사지 출랑 거 파데라 그가랑 후마야 독자 랍송 다다야 독자 랍송 마음발라야 텔레 독자 락거리 삼바 아니 던데신의 출랑 게 사위를 내바지 로 침부소 요거 로 되게 침부소 거 요로 근데 지금 마주가 있나 양 출랑 게 유몽데 차단 게 로데 쇼통도 거 요로 영화이나 그런 순간에 잘고 요래 송화이나 유몽양매 유몽께서 열대양매 수미 입지 그 남도 그 로야 마다와이나 유몽 요 말다 대성 가능지 마찬가지나 핑기 요래 있어게 요래다
So if any of these three things are missing, then fully potent delusions will not develop. The first one we could call, say, the karma for delusion. Say that one has the potential, one has that karma to develop delusions. The second one being the object condition. The third one being inappropriate attention. So on the one hand, even if one has that potential or the karma to develop delusions, if one doesn't meet with the object, if one keeps those objects of attachment or aversion away, then it'll be missing one of the causes for developing the delusion. And then again, even if the object is there, if one doesn't engage in the inappropriate attention, then the delusion will not be created. For instance, if you meet with somebody who somehow you think is an adversary, and you start thinking about them, oh, they've harmed me in the past, they're harming me now, and they're going to be hurting me in the future too, and you exaggerate all of this, then that delusion of the anger or the aversion becomes much stronger. So if you don't do that, then the delusion will not develop in the same way. So if any of these three are missing, then that's a great advantage. One will not develop those afflicted states of mind.
그러면 제가 kandi tindi chue chave galmel singuna kasin tamaji rumje di soswa handa sangegi ni ta maung bala nga khwa yurjne di yige suksu yungu yes chene industry ka yores tirumje di do khande chinang yuna.
So Dechenla's question was about what Rinpoche said before about that Buddha said that he would appear in the form of scriptures in the future. So how could that be?
No, excuse me, David. Sorry, I didn't question how could that be, but my question was to Rinpoche was which sutra sutra is it in? Yeah, thank you.
David Molk. Yeah. That ya. Ti tatate ninji pema kapin doina ne insamso. Tangete tata simjusigi rwa. Do karina ne imbati jachaja tambang eteren. Tagarang ne dotina ne yurisin. Ta tersong yuri. Ngabja tamar chupa na ngani yigi suksosu. Ngai nyambe yisu la teche tela kupa chi sone. Tek tagarang re. Tate kawalan duk ani ngake juma simjuksi ne. Ta ninji pema kapin doina ne yusamso.
Yes.
So Rinpoche says, I think that could be referring to specifically the White Lotus of Compassion Sutra, but I'll have to check on that.
That's all. Oh, that's all. Any purchase and raging charity, until some yogi, any other big circle. Big soon in many time.
Then the Rinpoche a big sort of me.
Ale come up party from big Jampa Tharchin from big that's all. Oh, yeah, anything that the day sitting at the train time yogi. Any dinta jima ke zapin batela chiksina to Tarana Malayan Kasang Magic Zarake Kabaji a Betzara Chimbochiri, Kuchi Lakundutini. That is Zara Chitang the neck of the Shagamain, any drinks Ani Koranga Zara, the Hacha Chimbochi Shoma Soaina, any dinta jima de la to the Zapin Bala Chiri, any Korane down the Zara Hacha Chimbochonsona. That Nima Tagaran Zapi Bashoka, Chusu Tagaran the Tuya, Koranga Te in Chimini to total Godonga. Nejura Tang to Commando, Koranga Goyak to take Gondo today the Tani, any take other Gondo, Takatasin, any Chabasi, on Sichoroji.
So we had a question last time about some emergency situations, and if there's something that is very immediately urgent, then do contact me through the email. But otherwise, if we can arrange for it to be dealt with on this Saturday session, then that would be good. Dechenla, is that okay? Can you translate that again?
The Chichi Jodakana.
I think you're fine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What did they? Oh, yeah.
So I think Rinpoche, as Rinpoche asked, I think Rinpoche said next Sunday during this time that he might have another engagement, in the sense another emergency that might be at the same time. And depending on how that plays out, he'll make an announcement about this teaching on next Sunday. Okay. Thank you, David. You're absolutely right.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Thank you.
No.
Lasso Tujichi, and it today.
Thank you, Rinpoche Tochina.
Sabata Chud. Chud that big Sulomere.
Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Santa Cruz. Geshilagi so megi nesa.
Oh, Yeah.
Pande zawe lama rinpoche dagi jiworo peme denshu la kadin chenpe kone jeson de kuson tuke ngudu zetu so. Omso te ramjan kyamne gyatsu chinlap tang denye dendre luwa mepe Yabara chime seye lazo ye sewa yeshe chinchen tengdirepo. Yegun chinle karke kama pe kasu donga chazo menga. Ome sewe lamda nyamdo ki yunde tseka gedire shote. Kange sansam doje rangkam so lekwara tenche lungdo tambe. Shedu te sam gombe dude ye saden gembe chinle tachin sho. Pande lame nambara tabala kichi samya lota mikesh. Chinze lekwara thongwe mege ki lame chinla simla juba sho. Kewa kwendo yanda lama tang jeme shuki bela longchuch sata lamke yende rapso ne pade lame kopanyo to sho.
O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. Om Swasti. May the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths' infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors' enlightened activity is Karmapa. Your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of his traditions, doctrines, of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and pith instructions, has brought the qualities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization, to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. May I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind. In all lives may I never be parted from qualified Gurus, enjoy glory of Dharma, and by perfecting all qualities of the paths and stages, quickly attain the state of the glorious Guru.
Dashin simchin tamche lo chu san do wala sinje labda sora chu lamda do wala sinje labda sora lan turba se wala sinje labda sora turba yishi san cha wala sinje labda so baso namji chudan timba ye jidar samba yibhin turba nedo ki soba de jube so nye wala shi wala sinje labda so laso laso samba tuji che Samban Tharchin, Ningi Tharchin, Hiram Tharchin, Jampa Tharchin, Zuni Tharchin, 저런 사만 탈신데 바로도 신발 좀 사만 재미 이전 탈신 좀 탈신 너무 뭐 이전 탈신 사안도 그랬으면 부다리다
Rinpoche kadin lame che kadin che chinlap che Rinpoche. Che kusuru tuja nangu.
Rinpoche was kidding me about my name.
Tuji che Rinpoche, tuji che Chambala.
투지체 참아
Rinpoche kusu tuja nalwana kunzam shudyune kanji thola kusura thuja narwana.
Lasso, ta. Samla de yali kapsayang. Kashi kita, pe. Kangan take no one, ninja, and that means in a young lama shingandachi. I can't let you go. Lasso, any tama tuji che, any. Thank you so much, everyone. See you. I hope see you next section.
So,
Pucha na Rinpoche, Karten che.
Puchi cheso rinpoche chimlo che cutting la metu che ani kusula tuja champala
Paul
tuji
paper
che
the song, Gasola, Kide, mixer to you that after the teaching, we have a new mantra from Poland Sangha. Tuje che, cutting che, salab che, song tuje che, cutting che, salab che, song tuje che.
Yavodo.
Karachege, tuje che, cutting che, salab che, song.
So Rinpoche said there's a new mantra from Portland now. It's
After the
thank you.
teaching, always.
Thank you. Thank you. Very kind. Great blessings.
Thank you. You're very kind. Very kind. Sometimes churaki inchi tapdang e papu ke le jor ko tai. Chura chuchi ke ina churaki inchi thole she cho dang e pu ye ke thole pa ko do jor.
Rinpoche says he wants me to say something in
I
English
can become
sometime.
your translate. Samba.
Rinpoche can translate my English into
English
Tibetan.
to Tibet. Last all Timoshi. Any Sama tuji che.
Tashi dele.
Tashi dele.
Tuji Rinpoche.